Hi everyone. As I'm sure you're aware, the government will be moving to step 4 of its reopening roadmap imminently on the 19th of July. As a result, legal restrictions will be lifted, businesses can reopen, and there is no longer an instruction to work from home. Because of this, on the 14th of July, the Working Safely guidance on the gov.uk website has been updated with the aim of providing advice on sensible precautions employers can take to manage risk and support their staff and customers. I've been through that guidance. It has been simplified to some extent, but by way of example, the advice in offices, factories, and labs still runs to some 21 pages. I think it does reflect the increasing nervousness about lifting all restrictions. What we thought was that we might have 3 or 4 pages of advisory guidance, whereas little has changed in some areas and could potentially encourage quite restrictive practices still. The guidance does state, in the long term, we expect businesses will need to take fewer precautions to manage the risk of COVID-19. We will continue to keep our guidance under review and will remove advice once it's safe to do so. So I think the intention originally was for that to be in place on the 19th of July, but a lot of guidance has to remain to try and minimise that risk of ongoing transmission. So the guidance is separated into the following areas: construction and other outdoor work, events and attractions, hotels and guest accommodation, offices, factories and labs, restaurants, pubs, bars, nightclubs and takeaways, and shops, branches and close contact services. So in this video, I've just focused on offices, factories and labs as an example, and I've had to read it because we need to update our documents internally as well. Now at the outset, very helpfully, the key recommendations are set out in each workplace. In this case, update your risk assessment, provide adequate ventilation, clean more often, turn people away with COVID-19 symptoms, enable people to check in at your venue, and communicate and train. So there are 6 key steps that the video is focusing on and that the guidance outlines. Just looking at the guidance in detail, there's a few key areas I just wanted to pick out. The first being the return to the workplace. And I will just repeat some of the wording in that guidance. So the government's no longer instructing people to work from home if they can. Employees can start to plan a return to workplaces. Now, importantly, it states during this period of high prevalence, the government expects and recommends a gradual return over the summer. So that means phasing in. It doesn't mean that the big bang on the 19th of July is advised, and employees are probably going to be aware of that guidance as well. You should remain responsive to workers' needs, particularly during this period when not every adult will have been offered 2 vaccine doses. That says to me that we have a legitimate right to now start asking or requiring information about vaccinations, because that can affect our assessment of risk and the measures that we might put in place internally. You should give extra consideration to people at higher risk and to workers facing mental and physical health difficulties. Those who are clinically extremely vulnerable no longer advised to shield, but we should continue to support these workers by discussing individual needs. We should consider providing support for workers around mental health and well-being, including advice or telephone support. So some guidance creeping in there that suggests we don't have a one-size-fits-all approach. We will need to speak to people individually, particularly those who might be reluctant to return, may have been away from the workplace for a long time, or may have very complex health needs. In relation to face coverings, the guidance obviously states these are no longer required by law or won't be on the 19th of July. However, the government expects and recommends that people continue to wear face coverings in crowded, enclosed spaces. Be aware that workers may choose to wear a face covering in the workplace. So as a business, you will need to decide what your rules are going to be. Do we want to mandate that masks are worn? Do we want to adopt a more relaxed approach? In our case, what we will suggest is that if people feel more comfortable wearing them, they can do. Key feature of this guidance: providing adequate ventilation through doors, windows and vents, mechanical ventilation using fans and ducts, and through a combination of both. So the guidance states rather than recirculating air, any mechanical ventilation should draw in fresh air. And there is a suggestion of using CO2 monitors to assess whether space is poorly ventilated. The guidance on reducing contact has stayed, so this is measures such as fixed teams or partnering, using screens and barriers, and again potentially encouraging the use of face coverings. I did expect that to go, and I thought that the government might remove references to fixed working patterns and shifts, but that has stayed for now. Obviously, cleaning and hygiene is still top of the list. It's a very easy, quick win in terms of reducing that transmission risks. So continued education around hand washing, use of hand sanitizer, regular cleaning of surfaces, and particularly high-touch surfaces still very much recommended. And there is another section now added to the guidance on discrimination. So government keen to stress that those with protected characteristics must not be disadvantaged as a result of any measures which are imposed in the workplace. And that may apply where they are exposed to a different degree of risk. For example, if they have a disability or may not be able to accept the vaccine for a particular reason relating to a protected characteristic. We need to decide whether we have to put in place particular measures or adjustments to take account of duties under the Equality Act. We are required to assess health and safety risks for new or expectant mothers, and we must ensure that there is no indirect disadvantage on certain groups who may have a protected characteristic. I think that goes again to the suggestion that we need to be looking at people on an individual basis rather than a set of rules that are going to apply across every single workplace. So the full guidance, 21 pages for officers, unfortunately, is available on the gov.uk website. If you need any specific advice about updating your provisions in relation to the return to work, please do let us know. Visit the website chadwicklawrence.co.uk for our contact details, or employmenthub@chadlaw.co.uk. Thank you.